You're a flat earther, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Lord Jamar is a flat earther, everyone.
Hey, what's up everyone? Birdman here. So we've got another rapper dipping his toes into the conspiracy kiddie pool, and of course, it's another flat earther. Let's hear what he has to say and see if I can't answer the questions he raises, shall we?
Why are you a flat earther, sir?
Because it's ridiculous to think that someone can live on a ball, to think that water could wrap itself around a spinning ball, to think that people could be on the bottom of a fucking ball and be upside down because some magical thing called gravity is allowing it to happen.
So that was a lot, but let's reiterate his points so that we may answer his claims. Number one, it's ridiculous to think that someone can live on a ball. Well, not quite. Most arthropods can walk upside down on a ball, so this idea isn't inherently ridiculous on its own, but we know what Lord Jamar means, so let's get to point number two. It's ridiculous to think water can wrap itself around a spinning ball. Of course, Jamar's position entirely relies on his understanding of balls that are on Earth. Yes, it's not immediately intuitive that water can stick to a globe when you've spent your entire life on Earth, which has a gravitational pull, meaning any water on other balls would fall off and be pulled to the Earth itself, because its gravitational well is much larger than that of a tennis ball, for example. So this is why he believes it's ridiculous for water to stick to a ball, because he believes there is an objective down for the water of the ocean to fall off. The problem, of course, is that people who espouse this idea have no understanding of what gravity is and how or why it works. Whenever I ask these people why does water fall down on a flat Earth, they quite literally invoke gravity by saying density and buoyancy, two concepts that rely on gravity to work in tandem. Which brings me to his third point. Gravity is a magical force. Now, there is some truth to this statement, in that there are many things we don't understand about gravity, and things we don't understand seem magical to us until we understand it. I'd imagine if you took an iPhone 7 back in time to the Middle Ages, they'd burn you for witchcraft. However, what we do know about gravity is that it exists. Henry Cavendish performed an experiment in the late 18th century using a telescope and 4 lead balls that proved there was a gravitational constant. In simple terms, a number that tells us how strong gravity is between two objects of any size. Imagine you have 2 small lead spheres and 2 big lead spheres. The small spheres are on the end of a horizontal bar that can spin freely, like a seesaw. The big spheres are placed near the small ones, but not touching them. Gravity then pulls the small spheres towards the big ones. This pull is very weak because the balls are small, but it's still there. As the small spheres are pulled, the bar moves slightly. By carefully measuring how much the bar turns, we can figure out the strength of the gravitational force between the spheres. From this, we can calculate the gravitational constant and learn more about how gravity works everywhere in the universe, and this includes the Earth itself. So while we can't, in 2024, fully explain everything about gravity, we can absolutely prove that it exists.
So the water should be pouring into space then.
Everything should be pulled into space, into the so-called vacuum of space if there's no covering.
This is a popular talking point by flat earthers and one that is easily proven wrong. You see, when flirfs hear the word vacuum, they immediately think of a Dyson or a Hoover, those household appliances that physically suck in debris. A vacuum in physics, however, is simply a space where there is no or relatively little stuff. Things are not sucked out into the vacuum of space. This is a very common misconception due to science fiction films showing blowouts. What those films are actually demonstrating are pressure differentials, but I digress. Gravity holds things to the Earth, including the ocean, as there are no competing forces that would send the water into space. In order for things to move, there has to be a force applied to that thing. This is Physics 101.
You think we're in a dome?
Absolutely. Although, see, here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Oh, shit. You
Here's
never
the
heard
thing.
this shit, huh?
Hey.
Explain.
Here's the thing, right? There's certain things that they don't allow you to explore, right? So there's certain things that I can't prove. I can't go there. I'm not allowed to go up there and touch this. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So this is only what I can surmise, especially from thousands of years, because only 500 years ago did they come with this whole heliocentric model.
I would like to applaud Lord Jamar for knowing his history. Copernicus did fully develop the heliocentric model roughly 500 years ago. I could technically argue that Aristarchus of Samos suggested it first about 2,000 years ago, but I'm willing to give Jamar this one. However, where I will not be charitable is this idea that the nebulous and undefined they are preventing you from going into space and proving there is or isn't a crystal dome. In fact, there was an act passed by Congress in 1984 that explicitly encourages the private exploration of space up to and including operating a private launch site. This means you can legally build a rocket and launch it into the air as long as it's safe to do so without shooting that rocket into a commercial aircraft, for example. This is why SpaceX is able to do what they're doing as a private company. So the only thing holding you back, Jamar, is knowledge. Oh, and money.
All the different civilizations prior to that knew that we lived on a level plane.
Whereas the heliocentric model was relatively rare in antiquity, the idea that the planet is spherical was not. The Greeks knew the Earth was spherical in the time of Aristotle, who provided evidence for the shape of the Earth as early as the 4th century BCE. His evidence was Earth's shadow on the moon during a lunar eclipse, something we all can observe at least once a year. For those that don't know, a lunar eclipse is when the Earth is between a full moon and the sun, and the moon passes in front of the shadow formed by the Earth. As the Earth's shadow on the moon is curved, this means the shape of the Earth must be round. There is no other explanation for lunar eclipses.
Okay, water always finds its what?
Level.
Exactly.
I love this talking point so much because it immediately demonstrates the person has no idea what they're talking about. Level on planet Earth simply means perpendicular to the Earth's core. That's it. Further, this idea that water always finds its level is immediately debunked by the existence of tides. We are all familiar with the concept of high and low tide, so ask yourselves, how could water always find its level if tides exist? Those of us that paid attention in science class understand that the moon produces a gravitational pull that affects the oceanic tides across the globe. But for those of us that don't understand this, think about what's happening to the water when the tide is low. That water went somewhere, right? And we all know it's not low tide everywhere on Earth, meaning one place's low tide is another place's high tide. This means there is literally a swell of water at any given time in the middle of the ocean that's higher in one place and lower in the other. This is impossible if the Earth were flat because water always finds its level, right?
Water always needs a what? A container. You see?
Yeah.
I can't have this drink on the outside of my cup. It must be on the inside of my cup. It must have a container.
Water needs a container, you say? Well, what do you call all this containerless water?
So there's no way that water could just stick to the outside of a spinning ball. Think about it.
Right.
Where's the 1,000-mile-an-hour? Because it's supposed to be
Because
going
it's on an axis, and it's on an
So
axis.
so listen, not just a ball that's like this. It's a ball like supposedly like this, and that axis also equals to 666. But that's
what?
Oh yeah, that's some whole other shit.
Yes, it is some whole other shit, but unsurprisingly, Lord Jamar is a Christian, as most flirfs tend to be. This is because it's the Bible that suggests the Earth is flat and has a crystal dome called the firmament. Anyway, this shows why Godfrey isn't the guy for this discussion, as he brought up the axial tilt of the Earth, which doesn't have anything to do with why the ocean is attached to the Earth, and it allows Jamar to spread his nonsense even further. One thing I've noticed about most flirfs is that they have no concept of just how massive the Earth is. So when they talk about the rotation speed of the planet, 1,000 miles per hour sounds huge to them. The Earth's size is why that number doesn't matter. The planet rotates once per day. Get on any roller coaster that takes a day to finish its cycle, and that no longer sounds like a fun ride, does it?
What the fuck?
Yes, sir.
Axis of evil?
Anyway,
Damn.
so now you're on an axis,
shit.
and then you supposedly have land masses that are going on the top, on the side, and on the down under, right? They
Right.
call it down under for a reason.
Right.
So do you believe that people are upside down right now in Australia, and that rain goes up instead of down? It rains up in Australia.
This is a hilarious demonstration that one was not paying attention in school. First of all, there is no up or down in space. These directions only make sense on objects that have a large gravitational pull. Gravity is why you feel the direction down, as gravity is pulling you to the center of whatever object you happen to be on. Therefore, no matter where you're standing on Earth, you will be standing on the ground, and rain will fall to that ground. So yeah, if you happen to be in a place on the planet that's the opposite location of Australia, their rain would be falling towards you. However, Godfrey's podcast takes place in New York City, so rain in Australia would be falling relatively towards the Atlantic Ocean, not you in New York.
Do you believe that planes are landing on moving runways? Why can't I go up in a helicopter for an hour if the world is spinning? Why can't I hover for an hour and come back down and be somewhere else?
Because, Jamar, helicopters require air to fly. Air is a part of the atmosphere, and as we've already discussed, gravity is holding everything to the Earth, including the atmosphere. Since you were on Earth when you left the ground in the helicopter, you retain the rotational momentum of the planet and are spinning along with the Earth. I think flirfs believe that once they jump off the ground, they're no longer on Earth, but the atmosphere is still very much a tangible part of the planet. The laws of motion are easily demonstrated with a car crash. Once the car stops abruptly, your body continues moving in that same direction, and this is why we wear seat belts, Jamar.
Damn. That makes sense.
No, it doesn't, Godfrey. No, it doesn't.
It does, but this is what I heard. I was talking to a former fighter pilot, and they get up to 50,000 feet, like 20,000 something more feet. And I said, do you see the curvature of the Earth? He says, yes, we do.
He's lying to you. He's a Mason. I guarantee it.
And if his flat Earth beliefs didn't convince you that he's a conspiracy nut, the Mason accusations about a person he's never met does the trick. It's also a boomer accusation. I haven't heard someone be called a Mason or a part of the Illuminati since I was in middle school. These days, it's the woke mind virus.
Damn.
I guarantee you this guy is a Mason.
Really?
Because I have footage where as high as you go, you always see a level plane.
But I thought they didn't let you go up that high, Jamar. So where is this footage you have from a place you aren't allowed to go? Sounds like someone is lying. It also sounds like someone is deaf, too, because Godfrey says the person he's talking about goes to about 50,000 feet, which is 10 to 20,000 feet higher than commercial airplanes go. So what you're saying is you have flown 4 miles higher than any commercial flight goes. I'd love to see the boarding pass.
Really?
You always see a level plane. As high as the observer goes, there is always a level plane. There is no curvature.
Well then, what the hell is this? This is the Blue Marble, a photograph taken by NASA astronauts in 1972, years before computer graphics and Photoshop were even remotely capable of producing an image with this level of detail and clarity. Is this not showing the curve of the Earth? Or was the camera a Mason too?
There should be, by Pythagorean's theory, right? There should be 8 inches of curvature per square mile. Visible curvature that you see.
At this point, you can tell Jamar has been watching flirf YouTube videos in order to prepare for this interview, but was only watching just enough to sound like he knows what he's talking about to people that don't understand these things. First of all, he means 8 inches per mile squared, not 8 inches per square mile. Those are two entirely different things, with the former being the rate of vertical drop over distance, and the other is a measurement spread out over an area. You would use 8 inches per square mile to measure something like how much snow is on the ground, for example. 8 inches per mile squared is the term he's trying to use, but itself is simply a shorthand for measuring the rate of drop height, not an accurate measurement of it. The actual formula you want to use is this one, and it's trigonometry, something I know for a fact Lord Jamar and other flirfs do not understand.
Damn.
We do not see such curvature, sir. This is some bullshit that they use to create basically to take God out of the equation.
And there it is, folks, the thing most flirfs won't outright admit. They get this concept of a flat earth from the Bible, and it's why a majority of flirfs are religious Americans that don't understand Australia.
So
Let me ask you something.
Yes.
The Big Bang Theory. When's the last time an explosion, which usually destroys things, created something?
While this video is not about the Big Bang, I'll bite. First of all, the Big Bang was not an explosion, as most scientific illiterates think it was. The Big Bang was simply the sudden expansion of space-time from a singular point. The effects of this expansion can be observed today with the cosmic microwave background radiation. Second, the Big Bang created naturally occurring phenomenon such as gases and heat. Jamar is implying that an explosion cannot create a microphone or something complex, but scientists don't suggest that's what the Big Bang did either, so this is a straw man argument. Heat, gravity, dust, and gases created stars, and the leftover remnants became planets and asteroids. That's what the Big Bang created. Rocks.
Billions of years ago.
No, because that's what they told
us, right. That's
when can I do an experiment? Right now, they're doing a hadron collider trying to fucking find the God particle because they're trying to find creation out of destruction, and you never will because there was a lie.
So he went on a little tangent there, and I'm not particularly interested in the religious aspect of the argument, but I am interested in Godfrey's mention of billions of years and Jamar's almost instant rejection of that idea. This tells me that Jamar is likely a young Earth creationist, or one of those people that believe the Earth is only about 6,000 to 10,000 years old. That is easily disproved. Elemental decay is something we've understood for a long time. In short, unstable atoms change into more stable atoms by giving off radiation where they lose neutrons or electrons in a process called radioactive decay. When this happens, that element becomes a different element or an isotope of the same element. The amount of time it takes for half of a group of unstable atoms to decay into stable ones is called the half-life and is measurable by scientists. For example, the half-life of the elemental isotope rubidium-87 is 49 billion years, after which it decays into strontium-87, which makes it a suitable candidate for radiometric dating, or simply measuring the ratio of rubidium-87 in a rock sample versus the amount of strontium-87 in that same rock sample. This gives us an accurate age of rocks on Earth, and we have rocks on this planet that are roughly 4 billion years old, which tells us that's roughly the age of the planet itself.
That's fucking stupid. You will never see Europe from New York City. You know why? Because there's a thing called atmosphere. And atmosphere acts like a glass. It only allows you to see but so far.
Yeah, that don't make sense.
That's fucking stupid.
That was dumb.
So a person super chats that if the Earth were flat, you should be able to see Europe from New York City, and they both immediately shoot that idea down as stupid while simultaneously entertaining this lunacy being spouted by Jamar. You can't make this shit up. Also, he says the atmosphere acts like a glass, and that's why we can't see Europe from New York. And I don't know what kind of glass Lord Jamar has, but the kind I have is see-through. Anyway, he's not exactly wrong. Atmospheric conditions would become a barrier on a flat Earth at some point, but this does not address the fact that we should be able to see much further than we can if the Earth were flat. But it's not, so we can't. This is why boats disappear over the horizon bottom up and not shrink into a dot, which is what they would do on a flat Earth.
It's far as fuck away anyway.
You can see things that are mad far that you shouldn't be able to see, where it should be under the, first of all, what's it called? A horizon, right?
Yes.
What's the root word of horizon? Horizontal.
You know what the origin of the word stupid is, Jamar? To be amazed, like I am right now at this level of stupidity. The origin of the word horizon is from the Greek word meaning circle. Yeah, how do you like that? Anyway, by the time English adapted the word, it meant a boundary, and that's what the horizon apparently does, create a boundary between the land and the sky. And to absolutely no one's surprise, the word horizontal is derived from horizon, not the other way around, genius.
An airplane. What is a plane? A plane is something that goes straight across.
Yes.
I'm trying to figure out what an airplane and its name has anything to do with the shape of the Earth. Besides, aircrafts get their name from the French word
planer,
which means to soar. You know, the things airplanes do.
What is sea level? Sea level.
Okay.
None of this says curveizing or, sea curve.
Right.
Is this not the sea curving? And again, level simply means perpendicular to the Earth's core. You also don't know that sea level is different in different parts of the world, which means it's lower or higher than, say, the sea level in New York City. That would very clearly debunk your earlier idea that water finds its level, as the oceans are all connected. If water found its level, every place on the planet would have the same sea level, and tides would never be a thing.
we measure distance in straight miles. We don't measure them in degrees and all of that. We measure them going straight.
Someone get this man a parabola, which also happens to be a plane that curves. We literally couldn't properly aim rockets and missiles without accounting for a parabolic curve. So you're essentially saying the United States Navy can't accurately launch a missile from a submarine and hit a target miles away. I'm sure all those sailors and the boats they've sunk were all Masons too, right?
If you're going south, how come it's not downhill the whole way? And north.
Is he making sense?
No, he's not. The Earth is massive. We are tiny in comparison to it. A bacteria on a bowling ball probably believes the bowling ball is flat too. Because it is tiny, it cannot perceive when that ball curves, but it clearly does curve, and we can see that because we are more massive than a bowling ball. This translates to you having to be really far from the Earth to see what it actually looks like, and since we are all essentially bacteria on the surface of a bowling ball, our perception is skewed and unreliable.
You don't believe there's gravity.
There's density and buoyancy. There's no such thing as gravity.
No such thing as gravity.
I told you these lunatics always invoke density and buoyancy, and he's reading directly from their playbook. I'm telling you, this guy literally just watched a Flurf YouTube video before this. It's uncanny. Anyway, density is a measure of how much mass something has. In scientific terms, density is mass per unit of volume. Notice how that has nothing to do with why things fall down? Buoyancy is the propensity of things to float in a given medium. The problem is buoyancy is a scientific concept that invokes gravity in its formula. In other words, buoyancy doesn't make sense without gravity. Things do not infinitely float up. They eventually settle on top of whatever they are more buoyant than. People are most familiar with helium balloons, as helium is lighter than the air that surrounds it, and that's why it floats up. The problem is when there is no air for it to float on top of, a helium balloon, like everything else, falls down to the earth. This is why helium balloons sink in vacuum chambers. There is no air. The buoyant effect creates layers of density, and this is why helium balloons don't just float out into space, but instead achieves equilibrium with less dense air in the troposphere. If you paid attention in science class, you'd know the troposphere is the lowest layer of Earth's atmosphere. So why doesn't the balloon go up any further? Gravity. It's the exact same reason why beach balls float up and out of water, but then sit on top of that water, never floating up into the air. Gravity is holding the ball on the surface of the water. That's how buoyancy works, literally because of gravity creating density layers in a process known as stratification.
And if you look it up right now, they'll tell you that gravity is the theory. So
yeah, but
listen to me. No, it's not. No, it's not. Listen to me.
I'm unfamiliar with the gentleman on the left, but he's the only one that seems to know anything here. He's right. Gravity is a scientific theory, not the colloquial word theory that most people use to mean a guess. A scientific theory is an explanation for natural phenomena. Scientific theories are synonymous with the word facts. In other words, scientific theories are facts.
There's a difference between a scientific theory and a mathematic theory, and both are different from the colloquial notion that a theory is just a blind guess or empty, baseless speculation, like religion is. It's not like a theory could be proven and then become a law, either. And natural laws are just the summary statements or equations men devise trying to understand what they've observed. Theories are higher than laws. A scientific theory is a verifiably accurate explanation with practical application encompassing a body of facts, natural laws, and other associated hypotheses within that particular field of study. Theory is the highest level of confidence science can achieve. It's as close to proven as anything can be, if one applies the mathematic definition of proof, but that's not the one creationists use, so it's not the one I'll use when explaining it to them. The National Academy of Science declares that evolution is both a fact and a theory because every modern scientific theory both is and explains established fact, like the theory of gravity, relativity, tectonic plate theory, atomic theory, oxygen theory, cell theory, and the germ theory of disease. We know that cells are the basis of living organisms, that diseases are caused by germs, and that all matter is made of atoms. These are all facts as well as theories.
There's density and buoyancy.
Okay.
The heavier things will fall to the bottom and the lighter things will rise to the top.
Jamar, why do those heavier things fall to the bottom and not, say, the side? If I released a stone underwater in a pool, why does that stone go down? There's water all around it, and the stone is heavier than the water above it, so why does it go down and not up? Why not sideways? Why always down? The answer, of course, is gravity. Gravity pulls objects towards the center of mass. On Earth, this translates to the Earth's core.
If gravity was real, well, then it has to have intelligence because it's holding down the oceans, which weigh tons, but yet it's allowing bubbles to rise to the top. It's allowing guppies to swim through the fucking ocean. It's allowing birds to fly through the fucking air. Like, that's ridiculous.
This argument makes zero sense. First of all, your answer for why things fall down is density and buoyancy. If those were the correct answer, then those too would have to have intelligence, right? I mean, because birds fly and fish still swim on your flat Earth, no? Gravity is a pretty weak force. It doesn't take much to overcome it, as you yourself have pointed out. Birds counteract gravity by flapping their wings and achieving lift, which can only be accomplished if air exists. Without that air, they too will be unable to fly, no matter how hard they flap their wings.
Today I'm going to be seeing if flies can fly in a vacuum chamber. Okay, we're only at 0.1 atmospheres, not full vacuum, but they definitely can't fly. That's so weird. The flies have now become walks.
There's also things called perspective. A lot of people say, oh, look at the sun going over the curve. No, it's not going over the curve. You're just not able to see it with your human eye. If you take a certain lens and you zoom in on the same thing, it will come right back into focus and it will not be going over any type of curve.
This is just not true. Any amateur photographer or videographer can go to a beach or an open plain and watch the sunset. Why is half of the sun missing here, Jamar? Why can I see the top half but not the lower half, Jamar? What camera can I use to bring the lower half back into view, Jamar?
About the moon, when you see the moon and the sun,
and the sun at the same time.
And
what would be going on?
There's a part of the moon that's dark and part of the moon that's lit.
See-through.
It's what?
You have seen the moon in the daytime and you have seen the blue of the sky straight through the moon. Don't tell me you haven't seen that.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Right. So what the fuck why are you thinking that the moon is solid if you can see right through it?
This guy is an idiot. Earlier, he tried to debunk a super chatter by saying you can't see far because of the atmosphere, but somehow he doesn't realize he's looking at the moon through that same atmosphere. That's why it's blue. You're looking at the blue light being scattered in the atmosphere and looking at the moon through that. This guy's a numbskull. Someone asked him why he can't see through the moon at night on a full moon and where he thinks the blue sky has gone. Probably Masons.
So do you not think that planets are round? Planets are not.
He doesn't believe there's planets.
No, I didn't say there's not planets.
Oh, okay.
What I'm saying is a planet, what they told you is a planet, is not the same as what we're on.
Why not? What proof do you have of that? You just said they won't let you go up and see the shape of the planet, so how could you possibly know that information?
So first of all, they say all the planets are round. That's not true. All the drawings of planets are round. If you actually get footage of real planets taken by a P900 camera, look that up. Hang on.
Yeah.
If you look up the footage of real fucking planets, what they do is they pulse. They change color.
Yeah, you showed me that.
They change shape and all this type of shit. They are not fucking round.
Challenge accepted. Here is footage of Jupiter. Looks round to me. Here is footage of Saturn. Saturn looking pretty round, bro. And as for the pulsing he's talking about, that is literally the atmosphere of Earth. You know, the gases in the air interfering with the shot. If you want no atmosphere images of Jupiter, we got those too. Let me guess. Masons.
The only thing that you see is round is the sun and the moon. And those things are here in our atmosphere. They are not 93. The sun is not 93 million miles away. The moon is not 230
something miles,
whatever thousand miles away. They are right here in our atmosphere with us, just like they appear to be.
And you have evidence for this claim? Because remember, you said they don't allow you to go up there. So how do you know the sun and moon are here with us? Whatever that means. I mean, how high up are they exactly? Commercial airliners can reach 30 to 40,000 feet, so they're obviously higher than that. The world record for highest altitude in a hot air balloon is 69,850 feet, so they're still higher than that. And Robert White took an X-15 to 314,000 feet, so they have to be higher than that. But wait, that's 60 miles up in the sky, also known as the mesosphere, the layer of atmosphere where meteors begin to burn up as they enter Earth. And you told us the moon was see-through, so what is it made of, if not solid rock? Your answers beget more questions than whatever it is you think you're answering.
But those are not the same as what we are on now. These are not solid masses that you can stand on. And my analogy for that would be, if you were standing on a pool table, sir, and you were looking out, right, you would see nothing but round pool balls in front of you.
Right. All right. Right.
Right? You would see nothing but round objects. That doesn't mean what you're standing on is round. The pool table is flat and square.
The logic is sound. The problem is there isn't only human visual evidence of the Earth's shape. As mentioned earlier, we can see the shadow of the Earth on the moon during a lunar eclipse, and that shadow is round. We have videographic evidence of the shape of the planet from the ISS, which is in low Earth orbit. We have pictures from the 70s that predate sophisticated computer graphics programs, meaning the picture literally couldn't have been doctored with the available technology of the era. We have private organizations that put cameras on rockets and show us those rockets leaving the Earth. We have seen the planet. So while I accept your analogy, the problem is, like we know a pool table is flat, we know the Earth is round. We have seen it.
And so because
If
we
you
thought
believe
it was
in the
round
Bible,
because
the Bible is a flat Earth book. So if you believe in the Bible, you can't believe in the globe.
damn.
I mean, I agree. That's why I've been calling flirts religious for years, as this is where they're getting their talking points from. The only issue I can see being raised here are those Christians that think you don't have to take the Bible literally. To that I say, why not throw out the whole damn book? I don't think God accepts picking and choosing, but then again, he does seem to pick and choose a lot. What was that about humans being made in the image of God?
He sent you another 20.
Listen, have you ever been to space, Mr. $20?
Right.
No.
Right.
You're taking the fucking word of NASA. By the way, you know what NASA's budget is?
What?
$53 million a day.
Damn.
Hell of an incentive to lie.
It's actually $68 million a day, but who's counting? Do you know how much your Christian churches make per day? $204 million a day. Gonna say anything about that? Or is that okay because they profess to believe in your preferred delusion? Taking $75 billion a year from the poor, sick, and desperate is far more despicable than furthering our scientific understanding, wouldn't you say?
And all they give you is animations.
So what do you
all
think
of these
the
things are
purpose of it? What do you think okay, so
is to
let's say
control you.
everything-
The purpose is to control you.
Okay, so
okay,
if
the
I
purpose is because
Damn.
if you knew that, because they say, oh, you act like everything revolves around you. It does. That's why you have the North Star and all the fucking other planets appear to be revolving around us, because they are.
This is why being a flurf is almost exclusively a Northern Hemisphere phenomenon, as people in Australia and South Africa do not even see the North Star in the sky because they are on the other side of a ball. These people give ammunition to the folks that say Americans think the world revolves around them. This one literally does.
It's what's above us that's moving. We are not. Do you feel like you're moving?
No.
Okay.
Do you feel like you're moving on an airplane? Besides turbulence, the ride is relatively smooth because you're traveling at a constant speed. Similarly, the Earth rotates at a constant angular velocity, and because we are moving with it, we don't feel the rotation. Much like riding in a plane without turbulence, we are part of Earth's rotating reference frame, so the movement is imperceptible to us.
That let's not ignore our senses,
So
okay?
you-
Hang on a second. Hang on a second. Because they'll say it's too big to feel us moving, yet we can feel when there's an earthquake. Make up your mind.
It's hard to make up one's mind when you're arguing multiple different things at once. First of all, your senses lie all the time. Your eyes tell you that this image is moving, and yet it's not. Some people hear Yanny when they hear this word being pronounced. J.D. Vance thinks couches are an acceptable substitute for vaginas. The point is, your senses lie to you all the time. And an earthquake would be the equivalent of turbulence on a plane. The ride was relatively smooth and uneventful, but a sudden gust of air rocks the entire aircraft. The rotation of the planet was relatively smooth, but the tectonic plates shifted and you felt that. By the way, how do earthquakes even work on a flat Earth? The current explanation for earthquakes is plate tectonics, something that doesn't even make sense on a flat Earth because you don't have a core that's constantly churning molten rock. Earthquakes disprove flat Earth. I mean that literally, because when an earthquake occurs, they produce P and S waves. P waves specifically create a shadow zone on seismographs because S waves cannot travel through liquids, whereas P waves can. This proved that the Earth has an inner core and outer layers, and shadow zones provide evidence for what shape that core is. And you guessed it, it's a sphere. Why would a flat Earth have a spherical core, Jamar?
And let me
Theory
just
of
say,
relativity? Or you believe in the theory
no,
of
that's
relativity?
some bullshit. They tried to use that to
Damn.
disprove
Einstein.
the fact that, listen, there was an experiment called the Michelson-Morley experiment. Look this up, where they were trying to prove that the Earth was spinning. They couldn't do it.
This is one of the favorite arguments of FLIRFs because it requires regular people to look up an experiment that they won't look up the details of, and it sounds smart because it has two scientists and experiment in the name. In truth, the Michelson-Morley experiment was measuring the Earth's motion through ether, a now debunked pseudoscientific medium that people assumed light traveled through. That experiment literally proved the ether doesn't exist, not that the Earth wasn't rotating. We have many ways to measure the Earth's rotation, from measuring the Coriolis effect to gyroscopes, the most famous being the $20,000 gyroscope that FLIRFs bought and debunked themselves with in the documentary Behind the Curve. Look that one up, Jamar.
Recently, we carried out an experiment to test the rotation to the Earth. If the Earth is spinning at one rotation every 24 hours, that means that every hour it has to turn 15 degrees. And if the gyroscope is mounted anywhere on Earth, it's going to drift. In today's 21st century navigation systems, they're using what's called a ring laser gyroscope. It is extremely precise. If we could simply get one of these ring laser gyroscopes, we would be able to prove once and for all that there is no rotation to the Earth. One of the people in the community actually purchased one for $20,000. But what we found is when we turned on that gyroscope, we found that we were picking up a drift, a 15 degree per hour drift. Now, obviously we were taken aback by that. Wow, that's kind of a problem, right?
And now most people bring up the car shit. They'll say, when you're inside a car, if I throw up a ball, it's going to come straight down, da 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 da. And I say, yeah, because you're inside the car. You see,
Yeah, but what
like,
if you throw the ball up outside the
if you were
window?
outside the car, it would be totally different.
What if you throw the
It would be
ball?
a totally different result.
Wait.
As
Wait.
whether you were inside a car.
So if
Once again, reality proves to be a harsh mistress for those that seek to spread conspiracy.
okay, I'm inside a car, and I have a ball in my hand,
Yes.
and I throw it where?
You just throw it up in the air.
Throw it like out the window. And
Not necessarily out the window.
Just throw it
You
up.
just might throw it
And
up.
it comes down
It
why?
might come back right back to you.
And that's not
There's
gravity.
that's the density, first of
Density,
all. It's
okay.
about density. But you have a covering, is what I'm saying, inside of a car,
Mm-hmm.
where if once you remove a covering, that changes the whole thing. Once you remove the covering, when you throw the ball up, this shit's gonna fly away.
What Jamar is trying to articulate is air resistance, which is not the dunk he thinks it is. What we are talking about is reference frames, and in the car example, a car with a closed system is the reference frame with no air resistance acting on the ball. This is the same kind of reference frame the Earth is for humans, as we are not experiencing forces from space that cause us to feel some sort of resistance in regard to the spin of the Earth. The ball in a car is a perfect example, actually, and it's precisely why he doesn't like it.
When you throw objects up,
All-
it's 9.8 meters per second squared. That it's like the same speed.
Plus,
at
you're
all
moving
times.
the
because
bus-
What
when you
in the
throw the ball-
mathematician bullshit are you coming with?
There's
right now?
bullshit they gave me. We all got the bullshit.
What I'm saying is, why are you remembering this? It's 9.9.
It's
Like,
some
what kind of
physics.
nerd
I
were
had physics
you?
class.
Fucking
I had physics.
He just talked about the milkshake experiment. Nobody.
You
else
just talked about Milk Dud and
Nicholson
Milkerson.
Morley.
You just talked about
milkshake.
You just talked about two lawyers, Milkerson and Morley. They sound like injury lawyers.
And this proves that Jamar just watched a few Flurf videos so that he could regurgitate some talking points as if he had a clue about what he was talking about, because the moment someone brought up gravity's formula, he didn't know what it was and called it nerd shit, right after invoking an experiment that he had no clue what the outcome was and himself fumbling the curvature drop formula. You can't make this stuff up.
They have
Because
done a laser
let me just say
experiment.
something. Let me just say for a, in all seriousness, I got in this to disprove it. I thought this was the most ridiculous thing.
What
in
was the flat Earth thing?
the flat Earth
first,
thing.
right.
I thought this was
Yeah.
the most ridiculous thing
Yeah.
in the world.
Right.
As a 5%er,
Yes.
we're taught actual facts and solar facts,
Yeah.
and
Right.
you know what I mean. I'm
Yes.
thinking that this is some bullshit.
Yeah.
Who the fuck came with this?
Yes.
Yo, bro, word is bond on everything I love. The more you study this,
Yes.
the more you cannot disprove it.
We're over 20 minutes into me disproving basically everything you've said up to this point. You were just not smart enough to disprove it. You weren't the guy for the job. And that's okay. Not everybody is. But you don't want it to be disproved. You've been aggressive and dismissive anytime the guy on the left attempted to speak against what you've been saying. And when the super chats came in, you were dismissive and rude to people literally putting money in the host's pockets. And I'm not criticizing you for that. I'm just simply saying that saying it can't be disproved is bullshit, and you wish this nonsense you were saying were true so that you can feel special, like all lonely flurfs do. Having some forbidden knowledge that they don't want people to have is alluring. Stupid, but alluring.
All life exists inside the egg, not outside of it.
Right.
If we do live in a ball, we live on the inside of the ball. And just like inside of an egg is not filled all the way to the top with the yolk. It might be like halfway. And if you look inside it, if you flash a flashlight inside of an egg, the fucking shit is gonna be level.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Because these liquids always find their level because we're on a level plane, bro.
What the f does that mean, Kobe Bryant?
And that's just what it is. And it doesn't hurt you that you're not on a ball. I don't know why y'all niggas love balls so much.
Whoa. No Diddy.
There's
Son.
a lot of ball loving.
Son. Yo.
A lot of ball. Yeah,
Ah, yes, the classic "you better agree with me, and if you don't, you're gay" technique. Inescapable logic you have there, sir. Anyway, the argument here is that there is no harm in believing in flat Earth, and time and again, that has been proven untrue. Almost without fail, flat earthers also believe in other conspiracy theories that are actually harmful, because if they would lie to you about the shape of the Earth, of course, they are lying about vaccines and the election and Jews controlling the media and eugenics and all other sorts of conspiracies where real people get hurt. Flat Earth is the gateway drug. I mean, look at you promoting homophobia because people don't believe the bullshit you're peddling. It never fails.
How do we know that it's round? Nobody can go up there. None of us can.
Let me tell you
But then they say
something.
we use satellites to go up and take a picture
Let me
of
tell
the
you
Earth
something.
being round.
They've never been on the outside. They already say we haven't been out of Earth's orbit. So they're already kind of admitting.
So spacewalking is bullshit.
They've never really been to space. It's absolutely bullshit. The only satellites they have are satelloons. They have these balloons that go in higher orbit or whatever.
But not in space.
I've actually heard this one before, that satellites are fake, and when we press them on how we get satellite imagery and GPS, they suggest that balloons are the answer. The problems with this are quite obvious. Number one, we have never in history photographed any of these balloons, and with the amount of data satellites give us, those balloons would have to literally cover the skies. And yet, no matter how many planes we've all been on and how many people have telescopes, not a single image of one of these balloons have been produced. So he has a lack of evidence. And two, who the hell is maintaining all those balloons? I know these people think air is nothing, but air causes friction. Those balloons would pop all the time, and boom, there goes your GPS. Pop, there goes your SOS on your iPhone. Blam, there goes Elon Musk's Starlink. The ground would be littered with balloon material constantly, and the satellite system would be in shambles. Flurfs never think more than a few inches beyond their face. None of this shit ever makes any sense, but according to him, we can't disprove it.
That's where the cables, and then you see them everywhere, is the cell towers. It's the towers that's everywhere. This is triangulation. This is a science that's been here for a fucking very long time. That's where your GPS comes from, triangulation.
That's just wrong. A cell tower is a static structure. It cannot tell you what your location is in real time like a GPS can. And I know you're referring to a phone, which is not a real GPS, which requires a clear sky for the best results. Why would a real GPS need a clear sky if the signal was terrestrial, Jamar? That phone you're talking about wouldn't get a signal in the mountains, but an actual GPS would. Why does that happen, Jamar? You wouldn't happen to be pulling explanations out of your ass, would you?
Are you guys believing this?
Listen, all y'all got to do, right?
It doesn't make sense. Some of this shit makes sense, doesn't it?
Right? And I will apologize, right?
Yeah.
I will say that I'm wrong, right? All you got to do is have a live stream, right? We shoot a rocket up into space. Don't give me this bullshit about the transmission's gonna cut out or all this time. No. Give me a fucking live stream where the transmission goes all the way into space and then look back at the Earth and show it fucking spinning 1,000 miles an hour with the buildings upside down and all that, and I will apologize.
This is one of the more frustrating things that Flurfs like to do. Notice that what he's asking for is impossible. You can barely see buildings from a plane, let alone from a rocket entering space. Then he suggests those buildings should be upside down, which I promise if we were able to physically show him this, he would turn his phone upside down and claim we flipped the image. And again, the Earth is massive. 1,000 miles per hour of angular velocity translates into the Earth rotating once per day. That is slow for something so big. 1,000 miles an hour sounds like a lot to people who drive cars daily, but commercial aircraft fly at half that speed and still take 12 hours to reach the other side of the planet. So he's poisoning the well. He knows what he's asking for doesn't make any sense. The only thing that does is a feat of a rocket being launched into space, and SpaceX already did that when they sent a Tesla into space. Dude Perfect went to space and they have the footage to prove it. But let me guess. Masons. Anyway, that's my response to this video. You asked for it and you received. Now let me get back to busting CinemaSins over the head with a blackjack, please.